So I guess Bruce Hall is now getting the blame for the end of REO Speedwagon, or so it sure seems that way to me. Last month, Speedwagon's statement says, Bruce has intended to be back on the road again by now. If it were up to just him, he'd be back on tour, but it's not up to just him. Okay, so who's it up to? Who made the decision that it was over? Now, although Bruce says he might not be able to run across the stage, he does go on to say he's feeling better than he has in years after his back surgery. He can play and sing just fine, and wants nothing more than to continue touring. He does not name names, but says he has the support of 2 co-founders of the band and literally every past member but one. Wonder who that could be. He did mention first names when he said he had the support of Gary's family and Greg's widow. Bruce is speaking of founding member, guitarist Gary Richrath and former bassist Greg Philbin. We'll get into this a little deeper later on in the video, so stick around. Bruce joined REO Speedwagon in 1977, first performing on the album You Can Tune a Piano But You Can't Tune a Fish, which was released the following year. He was hired after bassist Greg Philbin was let go. He has been with the band 47 years now. Long before joining REO Speedwagon, Bruce had actually played in a band with guitarist Gary Richrath in a group called Feather Train. Bruce's beginning was a good one, but it seems the ending of his career, or should I say REO Speedwagon's, isn't going down very well. Bruce comes from a deep musical family background, from his grandparents and parents to all of his brothers. All were very talented and played and performed in music. Bruce says simply, music just ran in the family. He has been playing in bands since he was 13 years old. As I said, Bruce and Gary Richrath was in a band called Feather Train, but Gary ended up leaving to join a group that would eventually become REO Speedwagon. Now Bruce says, Gary always promised me he was going to call me up one day and we were going to play together again. Well, sure enough he did. I was at a club I was playing at in Charleston, Illinois, called Ted's Warehouse. I was on break and somebody said, there's a phone call for you, and I went and took it, and it was Gary. He didn't ask me if I wanted to join REO. He just goes, okay, you're coming to California. Now that's where they lived at the time in 1977. Gary said, we'll get your ticket. You'll be leaving in 3 days, so get ready and go pack up your stuff. I just said, okay. Bruce started out playing on a 6-string guitar his uncle gave him, but soon would start playing bass. He had a great singing voice and was a lead vocalist in a few bands growing up. His mother had a beautiful voice and sang with the Sweet Adelines. They're a worldwide organization of women singers started in 1945, committed to advancing the art form of barbershop harmony. Although he didn't get to sing lead on many songs with REO, he did do a great job on the song Back on the Road Again. Besides his bass playing, his harmony vocals was to be a huge addition to the band. Now, why the bassist before Bruce, Greg Philbin, was let go was never really talked about much at the time. Greg had been the bass player since 1968, but for some reason the band wasn't happy with his playing style and made a change in 1977, hiring Bruce, saying they liked the way Bruce stayed in with the drummer. I guess this could be true. And when you listen to the You Get What You Play For live album, which was Greg Philbin's last, he sounded in the pocket to me. But I really don't know. Could have been his playing, or a personality conflict, or maybe a little of both. But either way, he was out and Bruce was in. And the next album, which was Bruce's first with the band, was to be their biggest seller up to that time, titled You Can Tune a Piano But You Can't Tune a Fish. After the Tuna Fish album came the 9 Lives album, and Bruce was to make his presence felt by writing and singing the lead vocals on the song Back on the Road Again. I guess you could call it his signature song, as he still performs it, and it's a crowd favorite even today. Besides playing in an earlier band before REO with Gary Richrath, Bruce also played in a band with former REO vocalist Michael Murphy, and this was when he wrote the song Back on the Road Again. Bruce said, I was with Mike in a band called the One-Eyed Jacks back in Champaign, Illinois. We were a blues band of sorts. When I first wrote Back on the Road Again, it wasn't a rock and roll song like it is now. It had a whole different feel. Once the band got a hold of it, they went, if it's going to be an REO Speedwagon song, then we're going to have to rock it out. And that's exactly what we did. Bruce was to ride the band to the pinnacle of the High Infidelity album and also went through the tough time when his close friend and the guy who got him the gig with REO, Gary Richrath, parted ways. Bruce says that still hurts him today. Bruce had this to say a few years before Gary's passing. The truth of the matter is that it was hard. It was a difficult time because of the fact that he is like my brother. I love him to this day. I hope the best for him, always. I don't know how much y'all know, but Gary can't seem to get away from the demons. They just won't let him be, and he can't seem to fight them off. It's taken its toll on him. Gary Richrath died on September 13th, 2015. Bruce stayed on with the group as they started touring again, playing all of their hits. They didn't record much after Gary Richrath was forced to leave the group in 1989 and basically made a good living playing all of their hits. Their fans never let them down. It was a far cry from selling out stadiums, but the band still kept the crowds on their feet. As the years rolled on, Bruce started having back problems. I'm sure many of us can relate to that. Finally, it started hampering him to the point of he decided to take some time off and have surgery. This was in November of 2023. Many of us followed his progress after the surgery as Matt Bissonette took over for him on bass. All through 2024, Bruce had been doing recordings, catching some nice bass, and going on family trips to Disney World, and seemed like he is up and going just fine. And then on September 16th, you hear from REO Speedwagon's Facebook page, among other media sources, that the band will quit touring come January 1st, 2025. And the reason they gave was a bit shocking to some of us who had been following along with Bruce's recovery. Next posted on September 18th on his newly opened Facebook page, we get word that Kevin Cronin was just discharged from the hospital, saying he had just dodged a bullet and is recovering from a recent, urgent, and successful surgery, and a list of some of the dates that will be canceled because of it. REO's website shows they are now playing out the rest of their 2024 dates and nothing else is scheduled. So what do we have going on here with one of the greatest rock bands of the 70s and 80s? It sure seems to me that Bruce Hall is ready to go, and if this is the last REO Speedwagon tour, then Bruce should be out there on stage with his bandmates and take it to the finish line and take that final bow. REO was a great band, but it looks to me they're going out in a shameful way by doing this to Bruce Hall. Bruce should hold his head up high as he has for the last 47 years with the band, while whoever decided he wasn't capable of performing needs to watch himself when he takes his final bow, because I'm sure there are many REO Speedwagon and especially Bruce Hall fans who'd like to kick him in the ass instead of applauding. Thanks for watching. Comment section's open, and I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this, the final days of REO Speedwagon without bassist Bruce Hall.